Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is a companion video. What are companion videos? Well, I'm awfully glad that you asked. See, every day on the John Campea Show, Monday through Friday, we take the second half of the show to take your live comments and questions. However, we normally don't have enough time to get around to all the live comments and questions that get sent in. But if you use that tip link and you support this channel and send in some fun questions, I want to make sure you don't have to wait too awful long to get those questions answered. So we gather them up and we address them here on companion videos. Now, this video is going up on Friday, and on this particular Friday, there was no regular John Campea Show because I actually, as of this moment, am in Las Vegas. That's right, Ann and I decided it was time to go to Las Vegas again. We haven't been in like over 14 months, and we're used to going 6 or 7 or 8 times a year because it's so close. So we decided this weekend, we're going to go to Vegas. But I'm glad we're here to do this companion video, so let's not waste any time and get right to it. And we're going to start things off here by getting caught up with Ben Rayner, who writes, "Hey, John, sorry about your Disneyland experience. Sounds awful. Yeah, it sucked, whatever. Anyway, I binged Parks and Rec and finished yesterday, Wednesday. It was my first time and I loved it. Everything from Burt Macklin, the Chris... I got a funny story about that with Chris Pratt. From Burt Macklin to Ron were great. Loved all the characters. Part 2. One of my favorite Ron moments is when I think was in season 6, when Leslie hands him an award from the government with his name on it, and he takes it, runs out of the office, saws it down, melts it, and buries it in the underground. Also loved all the recurring characters. 3 of 3. Last one, I loved whenever Catherine Hahn was so good in that show, was on with Adam Scott. Nice little Step Brothers reunion. All in, all Parks and Rec was great. Right up there with the Office. I am bummed that I can't find COVID special anywhere to watch, but mine are sad." Okay, so for those of you who don't know what Ben is talking about, during the pandemic, Parks and Rec did this great reunion special. Not like the Friends reunion where the actors get together and talk, but it was like they were in character. It was a special episode of Parks and Rec, a reunion episode of Parks and Rec. But instead of being together in person, they did it over like a Zoom kind of thing. Whatever it is that technology company in Parks and Rec is called, they did it over that. So they were all on Zoom calls and everybody in the cast was on it. And it had all the charm, and it felt like we had just seen our last episode of Parks and Rec the other day. Now, the Burt Macklin thing, of course, Chris Pratt's Andy in Parks and Rec would often pretend to be this imaginary character, FBI agent Burt Macklin. Now, this one time and you've heard me talk about before, I had Chris Pratt, James Gunn, and Kevin Feige come into my studio one time to talk about this upcoming movie they had at the time called Guardians of the Galaxy, because not a lot of people knew much about Guardians of the Galaxy at the time. And here, see if I can bring up this image for you guys. So this is me. Of course, you can see me there. There's Chris Pratt beside me, James Gunn beside him, and the guy with his back to us is Kevin Feige there. This was us behind backstage before we went out and did it. But anyway, so we did this interview to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy, and we also had a live studio audience at the time, and we brought in a live studio audience to come in so they could be there when, you know, we had these 3 great, incredibly talented people there, and we opened it up to the audience to ask some questions. And the very first question that somebody asked was to Chris Pratt, and they said, "Yeah, Mr. Pratt, what would Burt Macklin say to Peter Quill, Star-Lord?" And everybody erupted because, of course, everybody loves Andy on Parks and Rec, and they loved his character, Burt Macklin. He says, "I don't think Burt Macklin would put up with Star-Lord shenanigans or whatever." So it was pretty fun. It was pretty funny, and it was very, very enjoyable. It was a really good time. One of my favorite nights ever in my career. But yeah, anyway, that was a show that was so great. I still, at least once or twice a week, pop on Peacock. Yes, Peacock. Stupid name for a streaming channel. Pop on Peacock. Just pick a random episode of Parks and Rec and just watch it because they're all great and funny. And I'm glad you had a chance to get caught up on it, Ben. Anyway. All right. Next up, we've got Brian O'Connor, who writes, There is nothing I wouldn't love to see more than Man of Steel 2 with Cavill and Snyder returning, but equally important, in my opinion, is Nolan actually producing and David Goyer writing the screenplay. That exact formula is still, in my opinion, the best DCEU has had yet. I need them all. The reality, there's a misunderstanding out there. Some people think that Christopher Nolan was really actively involved in Man of Steel. He wasn't. His name is on the credits in credit only, like a lot of Steven Spielberg. I mean, don't get me wrong, Steven Spielberg actually is a very hands-on producer on some movies, but there are a lot of movies that he's a credited producer on where he really didn't do anything. Christopher Nolan, he has said that he was never really that involved with Man of Steel very much. So I would actually suggest it's more important. David Goyer is probably a more important piece of that puzzle because, like I said, Christopher Nolan really wasn't that involved. It would have been great if he was, but he wasn't. And we were just talking about David Goyer a little bit earlier because he's got a new show coming out on Apple Plus, that Foundation show with Lee Pace and Jared Harris. Looks fantastic. We've been waiting for it for years. I can't wait for that thing to come. So, and yep, I would love to see a Man of Steel too. I really would. All right, next up, we've got Rick Squire who writes, on the Vegas Strip, do you see Circus being blown up anytime soon? Probably. I don't know anybody that goes to Circus. That place is a relic and disgusting, and nobody wants to go there anyway. As was done with casinos in the 90s, that casino feels antiquated. With Resorts World having just been built adjacent, I see that end of the Strip trending in a classier direction. Yeah, I really do think, look, I'm not an expert on Vegas, although I'm going there tonight. But like places like Excalibur, Circus, their clock is running out. I mean, sooner or later, probably more sooner than later, I think they probably won't be around anymore. And they will go on to join their ancient Vegas hotel brethren that are now, in ruins and only have remnants in museums. So yeah, I don't see Circus being around much longer, but that's just my guess. All right, next up. Mischievous Gremlin writes, hey, John. I just wanted to know your thoughts on Pennywise the Dancing Clown taking on John Wick. I don't know if you talked about this or remember you mentioning it, but Bill Skarsgard was cast in John Wick 4. Yeah, I don't really know what to think about that because while I really liked him in it, did we really see what he has as an actor? And I don't mean that facetiously. I don't know how good or bad he is as an actor, really. I've never really gotten a handle on it. I'm not saying he's not great. I'm saying I don't know if he's great. I mean, ask me again in a couple of years, I might think now, clearly he comes from the pedigree. The Skarsgard family, immensely talented. From Papa all the way down to all of his sons. Immensely talented family, obviously. But yeah, so to me, him joining John Wick 4 was really kind of a non-story because I don't know whether to be excited about it or not. But, we'll get a bigger sample size of him over time. And then once we do, but listen, I am very excited about John Wick 4 nonetheless. So we'll see how that goes. All right, next up, we've got Rick Squire who also writes, would you agree the song Carmina Burana, oh, that's the ha 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 boom boom ha 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 boom boom ha 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 ha, right? Like the choir. You guys loved me singing that, didn't you? Anyway, would you agree the song Carmina Burana is clearly a heavy influence on Duel of the Fates? No. From Star Wars. This was the song in Excalibur when young King Arthur first rode into battle, and in the Doors movie when Jim Morrison drank blood with the witch. And it's been used, if it's the song I'm thinking about, it's been used a million times in commercials and tons of movies and TV shows. I mean, it's all over the place. Do I think it was a heavy influence on Duel of the Fates? No, I don't. Now, because to me, that's like saying, well, any modern metal song that has a big electric guitar riff. Well, there was a song with a big metal electric guitar riff in the 1970s. Clearly, that song was a big influence on this. Not necessarily. So look, I don't know. I mean, John Williams, who I go to see in concert every year, COVID notwithstanding, John Williams does this big concert at the Hollywood Bowl every year called Maestro of the Movies, where John Williams comes out and conducts all of his, greatest hits and stuff like that. It's always amazing. Now, I don't know, maybe if we asked John Williams, he would say, yes, that was an influence on me doing Duel of the Fates. But unless he says that I really don't see any reason to believe that it was. I mean, if he says it is, then it absolutely is, obviously. But just guessing off the top of my head, I wouldn't necessarily think it does, just because it has that kind of operatic vocal chanting as a part of the song. That doesn't necessarily mean another song that does that was influenced by it, because there are a lot of other pieces of music that do that too. Again, I don't know, because I'm not John Williams. Maybe if you can find some piece of John Williams saying that that was a big influence on it, then obviously that's the case, and maybe it is. All right, thanks for writing that in, Rick. Next up. Ha, 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 ha. All right, Quentin Shibusawa writes, theory for the Loki and Avengers plot hole. Tony was always supposed to lose the Tesseract because of Hulk. Someone from 2012 was supposed to see the Tesseract loose and secure it. What wasn't supposed to happen is Loki getting it. That's actually not a bad theory, because we've been talking about this ever since Loki started. Whenever you have any TV show or movie that uses time travel as one of its base concepts, you are always going to run into logic problems and loopholes and plot holes, I should say. You're always going to run into logic problems and plot holes. Always. There are entire videos about the loopholes or the plot holes and logic problems, and like even the best time travel involved movies, Star Trek, The Voyage Home, Back to the Future, things like that. It's just always going to be a part of it. And one of the things that a lot of people have always brought up, or since the Loki came out, is, well, hey, wait a minute. If Loki's a variant because he wasn't supposed to pick up the Tesseract, well, him taking the Tesseract and disappearing is what led the Avengers to do some of the things they do later on in Endgame, but the judge already said that they were supposed to do the things they did, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, plot hole. But you're right. Maybe the Avengers were supposed to lose the Tesseract right there, but not to Loki. Maybe Loki wasn't supposed to pick it up and somebody else did, or the government took it and they just couldn't get at it anymore, or it just disappeared, whatever. So that's actually not a bad theory, Quentin. That's not a bad theory. All right, next up. Ryan G writes, one of two. Hi, John. I watched In the Heights last Saturday and it was really good. Not as great as Hamilton. It is still really good to watch. With all the great singing and dancing, trying to follow the story as good as possible, here is my score for the movie. I give Hamilton 3 out of 5 or 3.5. Hamilton or In the Heights? I think you probably mean In the Heights. I'm not going to lie to you. I loved In the Heights. I never saw the stage play. I never heard any of the songs. I never listened to the soundtrack. My wife did, because my wife's a Hamilton fanatic, so she started eating up everything from Lin-Manuel Miranda. And I only went to go see, I didn't think the trailers were any good. I thought the trailers were terrible. So I didn't have a lot of interest in seeing it, but I was definitely going to go see it because my wife wanted to see it. And I thought it was great. I thought it was absolutely wonderful. Toe tapping, arms moving, smile on your face. And when the movie ended, Ann and I got out of our seats and we started, dancing a little. Like, look at me. I started dancing a little. And it was just that type of thing. It's just a feel-good, great kind of movie. I enjoyed it a lot. I'm glad you enjoyed it too, Ryan. All right, next up. Random British Bloke writes, hey, John, greetings again from the UK. In episode 2, assuming we're speaking about Loki here, I noticed there is some focus on the glass marks made by Mobius. I predict later we will see these marks vanish, indicating something is wrong within the TVA. Should we worry for Mobius? I bloody hope not. Okay, I tweeted out something earlier today that I believe comes into play here. The fact that the glass marks on the table, said the glass marks are already there. And she said, from you. It's like, where'd you get that snow globe? You're not my only agent. Where'd you get this pen? And a big zoom in on the pen. I think there are multiple Agent Mobiuses that look just like Owen Wilson. I don't think he's the only one. Now, I believe in the comics, he's cloned. Now, just because that's in the comics, that doesn't mean that's what they're going to do in the TV show, obviously. But all these little things like, oh, wait, where'd these rings come from? They're from you. Or the snow globe. You're not my only agent. I have a feeling, look, I have no insider information. This is just me speculating. I believe that we are going to find out that there are multiple Agent Mobiuses running around. I think there's going to come a point in one of the episodes where Loki is going to, talk to Mobius about something they've already discussed. And Mobius will say, what are you talking about? And Loki's like, we just talked about this like 2 days ago. What are you talking about, Loki? No, we didn't. You know what I mean? Now, I don't know. Again, I'm just guessing. I'm just speculating. I have no insider information, but that could speak to that random British bloke. We will have to wait and see. All right, next up. Tim Tracy writes, one of two. I 100% agree with your statement regarding comparing Smallville and Superman and Lois. Personally, I really like the show from season 4 and onward. Smallville, I assume you mean. I really like Smallville from season 4 and onward. Unfortunately for Smallville, they really had the Freak of the Week episodes for a majority of season 1, which I didn't mind, but the show really got going for me when Lois appeared. Yeah, so somebody was asking me, I can't remember exactly how it came up. Somebody was asking me the other day, you know, what do I prefer? Do I prefer Smallville or do I prefer Superman and Lois? And I said, well, that's not a comparison you can really make. Smallville was 10 seasons. Superman and Lois is 9 or 10 episodes so far, right? So you can't really compare them yet. And because I really like Smallville, what I did say was, I think if you take like the first 9 episodes of Superman and Lois, I prefer the first 9 episodes of Superman and Lois over the first 9 episodes of Smallville. But as for a larger comparison, we got to wait until Smallville kind of finishes, or until Superman and Lois finishes its run. Now, unlike you, I don't mind Monster of the Week or Murderer of the Week or, Mystery of the Week. I don't mind those shows. I think they're totally great. But you're right. It adds more flesh to them once you introduce an overarching story that, just is kind of threaded along with your Mystery of the Week or Monster of the Week or Freak of the Week or Kryptonian of the Week or whatever it is you're trying to do, right? It does kind of flesh it out more, but it depends on your tastes, I suppose. So I see where you're coming from with that. All right. Thanks for that, Tim. Next up, Eddie J writes, hey, John. I was thinking about the DCEU, and if the Snyder films were simply renamed Man of Steel, Man of Steel 2, Batman vs. Superman, and Man of Steel 3, Dawn of Justice, and viewed as a trilogy in that right, it would have made for a much better story. I don't agree. What do you think? Thanks, and stay filthy. No, I don't agree. Titling it isn't going to change a thing. I've said that a lot about movie posters and titles of movie. Ultimately, they make no difference. And people were either going to like Man of Steel or they weren't. And they were either going to like Batman versus Superman or they weren't. And they were either going to like Justice League or they weren't. And to say, well, if you just titled them different and so people looked at them as one big story, would have been received much better. I don't agree with that at all. I really don't. The movies either work or they don't. And while they worked for me, because you know how I feel about Man of Steel. I think it's one of the greatest comic book movies ever. I think it's the most underrated comic book movie of all time. I really liked Batman versus Superman. Not as much as Man of Steel, but I really like Batman versus Superman. Ben Affleck's rendition of Batman is my all-time favorite on-screen Batman. I just feel like Ben Affleck and Zack Snyder got Batman in a way that nobody else quite tuned in. Now, don't get me wrong. That movie is not as good as The Dark Knight. I'm just saying, even though The Dark Knight is the better movie, clearly, I just feel like Snyder and Ben Affleck got Batman a little bit better than even Christopher Nolan did. They didn't make as good of a movie as Nolan did, but I feel like they understood Batman better, right? And that's why that Ben Affleck iteration of Batman is my favorite of all time. Anyway, that being said, the reality is, half the critics and half the audiences didn't like it. They all underperformed at the box office from their potential, and just titling them differently and saying, look at it this way, everybody. It really wouldn't have changed a thing. I don't think it would have changed a thing. I mean, I would love to come up with a way that would make people see it my way more, which is Man of Steel's awesome, Batman versus Superman is great, whatever. I would love to come up with a way to make people see it my way more, but the reality is it wouldn't change anything. The movies were the movies, and people responded to them the way they responded to them. So that's my take on it at any rate, Eddie. It's good to know you are a fellow supporter of those movies, though. I appreciate that. All right, next up. Ryan G. writes, hey, John. I guess you're right, and I was wrong about In the Heights not going to make $1 billion. Well, listen, Ryan, you weren't the only one saying it. When I said on my show, In the Heights is not going to make $1 billion, I had a number of people writing to me saying, John, you don't get it. You don't understand how popular this is. And I remember saying, listen, point me to one musical that has ever made $1 billion. I'll wait. Still waiting, because it never happens. Never happened. And I said, In the Heights is, there's Hamilton, but In the Heights is not as well known as Hamilton and blah, blah, blah. But like, seriously, Ryan, take solace in that. You weren't the only one. A lot of people wrote that into me. And it's too wrong. Anyway, let's just keep on with the thing. Would not make $1 billion. Or you can prove me wrong in a few weeks. So what say you about this? It's unfortunate. In the Heights deserved to do better. Now, let me look it up here. In the Heights. Let me see where it's at right now. As of right now, In the Heights, if I can find it, In the Heights has made a grand total. Why can't I find it? Why is it not listed? Let me try this. This might speed it up. Okay. In the Heights, there it is. In the Heights has made a grand total of $11.5 million. So a little bit short of $1 billion, but it's made $11.5 million. Look, I'm here to tell you, this movie deserved much better. Not $1 billion, but it deserved much, much better. And I am resolute, because remember, before the movie came out, I was saying these trailers aren't great. They don't really give us a sense about what the story of the movie is. We don't really know who the players are. Nobody in the audience is going to recognize, like nobody in the general movie-going audience is going to recognize any of the players, any of the people involved, right? With the one exception of, Bail Organa, with the one exception of him, but nobody will recognize any of the main players. It doesn't give us any sense of the story. It doesn't really give us any sense of what's going on. It's some catchy music, but that's it. This is not going to appeal to people. And if it wasn't for my wife dragging me along, and I'm so glad that she did, I wouldn't have gone to see it. Now, I still thought it would make more than $11 million, but I didn't think it would make much more than that. Not terribly more than that at any rate, not opening weekend. I thought if it does really, really, if it gets a good solid opening weekend and people love it, it could grow a lot, but it is what it is. But it deserved better. It's a wonderful movie. It's a make your heart kind of sore movie. It's a dreamer's movie. It's just a feel-good film that makes you walk out of it feeling like the world is a bit of a better place than you felt it was when you walked into it. I love movies like that. And it was magic, and it absolutely deserved better. Anyway, next up. Ryan G. also writes, Hey, John and Rob. Rob's not here right now. What's a better movie, Indiana Jones 2 or 4? What are your thoughts? Is that a joke? Is that a joke? The Temple of Doom. Temple of Doom's great. I know there are some people out there that are Temple of Doom detractors. I love Kalima. I love Indiana Jones Temple of Doom. It's not my favorite Indiana Jones movie. That's Last Crusade. But I love that movie. I don't personally know anybody that loves Indiana Jones 4, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Now, listen, I am somebody that doesn't think Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is the absolute total train wreck that a lot of people make it out to be. I think it's a not bad little adventure movie. It's just a very bad Indiana Jones movie. You know what I mean? But yeah, no, that's the easiest question of the day, Ryan. The better film is Indiana Jones, The Temple of Doom. All right, next up. Carnell B writes, and tips in like $20. Thank you, Carnell. Appreciate that, man. Writes in, Hey, John, regarding the Tesseract Avengers / Loki plot hole, if Loki doesn't escape, then S.H.I.E.L.D. reclaims the Tesseract in company of high security. Tony / Steve, going further back in time, carried lower risk than second attempt in current timeline, my loophole. Somebody else was just writing that in and said the same thing. And that's not a bad theory. Okay, what if the Avengers did lose the Tesseract? It's just that Loki himself wasn't supposed to be the one to pick it up. That does close that loophole. There are still other loopholes. Like if Thanos jumped from 2014 to 2019 and then got snapped out of existence, and now there is no Loki from 2014 to 2019 when he was supposed to be there before. It makes the mind unravel, but still, as far as that one with Loki picking up the Tesseract, that does, if they say that's what was going to happen, that does kind of close that one loophole. So you and the other guy who said it, well said, Cornell, well said. All right, next up. Tiberius writes, one of three. Hi, John. Yesterday's discussion about Man of Steel motivated me to revisit it. I saw the 78 film with my dad, and it will always be one of my favorite movies of all time. When I saw Man of Steel the first time, I didn't like it. I have tried to understand why. I had just gotten braces and my mouth hurt like hell. That'll do it. Well, I rewatched it, and while I still prefer the 1978 Christopher Reeve movie, Man of Steel is much better than I initially gave it credit for. Two scenes in particular stand out. When Clark's dad sacrifices himself during the tornado scene, it is one of my favorite scenes in the movie, and I'll tell you what else, that is the most misrepresented and misinterpreted scenes of the entire movie, because that scene is great if you understand what's actually going on in it. Anyway, at the end, when Clark wishes his dad could have seen him become a hero, his mom told him he did, and they flash back to Jonathan watching young Clark as a boy with a red cape and his dog. It gave me chills. I recommend folks give it another chance. You know what, Tiberius? First of all, thank you for writing that in. It's always good to come across somebody who recognizes how brilliant Man of Steel is. But your experience reminds me a lot of that of the late, great John Schnepp. Because, whenever I talk about Man of Steel, Schnepp was like, yeah, it was good, but, wasn't that good sort of thing. And then I believe, I can't remember if we were still AMC or if we were Collider yet, but we did a commentary video. We did a watch-along commentary video for Man of Steel. And it was me, Christian Harloff, I think it was Christian, John Schnepp, and I think one other person was on it with us. And we watched Man of Steel through again, and Schnepp was like, that was way better than I remember it. And I find that with a lot of people, Man of Steel is one of these films that gets better every time that you watch it. Now, granted, I have said this before, and I mean it, that it is the filmmaker's responsibility to make the film in such a way that you don't have to see it multiple times in order to appreciate it. True, that still stands. But I think it does speak well of the film when a lot of people who go back and see it again are like, wait a minute, this is a lot better than I thought it was. And I find a lot of people have that experience. I know I to this day, I've lost count of how many times I've watched Man of Steel, but to this day, it gets better every time I see it. It honestly gets better every single time I see it. And I'm glad you had that. And you know what? If the 78 Christopher Reeve one is still your favorite, good on you. That's excellent. I know a lot of people, the Christopher Reeve original Superman is their favorite, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm glad now you have a newfound appreciation for Man of Steel. I appreciate that. All right, next up, we've got M56 Smart Gunner who writes, hey, John and gang. I just want to say, still here, still alive. This long-term COVID is no joke. B. Hey, John and gang. I made... B, did your message get cut off there, Smart? Anyway, okay, so, hey there, John, again, just want to say, still here, still alive, this long-term COVID is no joke. Man, listen, I have heard from some people, I know a couple of people got COVID, and one or two of them were able to recover pretty quickly, but this one buddy of mine in Canada, it hit him, and it, for a while, it knocked him on his ass, badly, ventilator, all that kind of stuff, really, really badly. And if it hit you that hard, man, I'm really sorry to hear it. But man, you're still here, still going. I'm glad the long-term COVID thing is something you're able to move past, my friend. Now, M56 Market also writes, hey, John and gang. I may not be getting a new Aliens movie with the Colonial Marines anytime soon, but there is a new game coming out called Aliens Fireteam. I'm not familiar with that. That was probably just announced at the recent E3. What do you think the new Alien show will be about, and what are the chances of troops showing up? Okay, so, they not too long ago announced that they're going to do an Alien series, and they really haven't given any details about it. The one thing they said once was, in the not too distant future. In the not too distant future. Now, if they mean in the not too distant future from today, well, then that means whatever this Alien series is going to be actually takes place long before the events of the first Sigourney Weaver Alien film. Long before it. If they mean in the not too distant future from the events of Alien, then maybe it'll be further on. But again, we have so few details to really know on. So if it's in the not too distant future, then we're probably not going to see Colonial Marines. probably other types of soldiers or whatever. But again, there are so little details out there right now. I'm sure over the next few months, we'll get some more details about it, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it, M56. Thanks for sending that in. All right. Final question of the day, and then I got to get myself moving here. Ninja Fart Monkey. Okay, award for name of the day goes right there. Ninja Fart Monkey writes, I could watch 2 hours of Mobius and Loki just talking while walking down hallways and getting lunch. Dude, I am 1,000% with you on that. 1,000% with you on that. It reminds me a lot. I was saying this before, but a movie that won Best Picture of the Year about 10, 11 years ago called The King's Speech with Colin Firth and Jeffrey Rush. The best scenes, and I love that movie, the best scenes in that movie are when it's just these two men, played by Colin Firth and Jeffrey Rush, sitting in a room together, across from a table or sitting in a couple of leather recliner chairs, and just talking. And I could have had the whole movie just been that. I was so engrossed in the dialogue and what was going on. It was fantastic. And while it's not necessarily that level, I feel the same way about the on-screen chemistry between Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson. And their dialogue and banter together, the quick-wittedness, how they play off each other. I could watch an entire episode of that. I could watch an entire season of it. I've been absolutely eating it up, and I've enjoyed it a lot. All right, I said that was the last one, but let's do one more, and then we'll wrap it up. Odyssey Quest writes, Hey, John, I don't think Sophia DiMartino is playing Lady Loki for many reasons, but is you look at the alternative language credits, she's credited as Sylvie, which could be for Sylvie Lushton, aka Enchantress. We were actually talking about that on the open spoiler discussion yesterday, that, you know, this character that Loki runs into at the end back on Wednesday, I don't buy that that's Lady Loki. I know everybody's saying Lady Loki. I don't think it is her. I think there are a number of little clues. Now, it could be Lady Loki. I don't know this for a fact. This is just me speculating. But if you look back on the episode, I think there are a number of breadcrumb kind of hints that are given out that made me, I don't know if that's Lady Loki. There's just certain things like Loki saying, I would never hit me like that. And when he calls her Loki, she says, don't call me that, and stuff like that, right? I suspected that. And one of the theories going around was, of course, Enchantress. And then we found out that in some international markets, in the credits, when it showed Sophia's name, in America, it listed her not as Lady Loki, it listed her as the Variant. That's all it said. It didn't say she was playing Lady Loki, it just said the Variant. So that's a hint right there. But in some international markets, when the credits rolled and it listed Sophia, it listed her not as the Variant, but as Sylvie, who, of course, is another name for the character we more popularly know as Enchantress. Now, I'm not saying that that means she's Enchantress. I'm not saying that. But I do very firmly have my doubts that it's actually Lady Loki. Like, if this was episode 5 or the final episode, episode 6, and they made that reveal, maybe then I'd buy it a little bit more, but this seems, nah, I'm not buying. Now, it very well could be Lady Loki. It very well could be. I won't be stunned if it is, but I have my doubts. I really do. I really have my doubts. All right. You know what? I just caught a glimpse of this next one. So let's do this one more last one. This will truly be the last one today because it's just a nice little message from Mike from San Francisco, who writes, Thank you for getting me through some very dark days. You, Rob, Aaron, Ann, and the team have brought me great joy for 2 years. I appreciate you. Thank you so much, Mike. I appreciate that. I wish you and Ann continued health and happiness. Congratulations on all your success. All my best. Well, it's always nice, Mike, when somebody just wants to send in a message to say something nice and encouraging. So thank you for that, man. I really appreciate it. And thank you for giving us the honor over the last 2 years of being there with you as you do the stuff during your days. So thank you for that. And thank you for the kind words. All right, guys, listen. There are still more questions to come from Jay Cruz and Mischievous Gremlin, Anonymous, Sam Fisher, and others. Do not worry. We're going to do another companion video when I get back from Vegas on Sunday. So another companion video is going to go up on Sunday. Come on back and check for that. And we should get all caught up on all the questions we have remaining. So we've only got a few left here. So we should on Sunday get all caught up on the rest of them. Anyway, guys, that'll do it for this little video. Thank you guys for being here. I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend ahead of yourselves, whether it's doing something fun or doing something relaxing, whatever it is you need from this weekend. I hope that's what you get. Think good thoughts for me in Vegas. That'll do it for me for now, guys. Thanks a lot for being here. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.